But I'm foolish. I'm needing you. Know that I've been missing. But I'm foolish. I'm needing you. I'm needing you.
Me? You need me? Hi everyone. Welcome back to the Animoose. Animoose. I'm your host. Captain. Cozy, adorable, and mysterious moose. And back here adventuring. So let us sync up. Let us log in and let us begin. Today's gonna be a I think today's gonna be a good one. So let's get cozy. What's on the itinerary for today? Well, of course,
Avast ye!
Silly pirate.
You think we won't reel you in?
What? Alright. Sort of. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wait. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You know, before I sacrifice you, I just want to say, you could use some work. Just, yeah, you need some work. Perhaps a swim? Would you like to swim? Perhaps. Maybe we can send you to the depths of Davy Jones' locker. Come here. Isn't this fun? Are you having fun?
Got him sated!
Hey now. None of that? I'll have none of that. So today on our mukbang stream, don't worry about that. Today on mukbang, we have, I like this spot, it's cozy. How about a different view? Okay, it's like Goonies or something. How about, that's pretty good. That's good. Okay. So yeah, mukbang. Hold on. We gotta disperse this. Well, first, let's just. And then. Whoa. Okay, let's just disperse this. Oh, here. May you find coziness. Okay. Anyways, today on Mukbang. That's better. Today on Mukbang we have these are Korean style pork dumplings. And I've got some, I can't see it really much, but Japanese barbecue sauce. So, yeah. But that's not the most exciting thing in today's stream. Hold on, I'll be right back, because I've pan fried these, but I'm gonna boil some, so they're kind of like more soft, like soft, you know. So I've got, these are all pan fried, and I'm currently boiling some. So give me a sec. Okay. So what we got here, we'll have to check on. I just put the dumplings in just to boil them so they're a little bit softer texture. So we'll see how that turns out. They are Korean style pork and vegetable dumplings. Oh, hold on, let's check. I gotta check the sauce. Okay. Okay. Alright. So we have a Japanese style barbecue sauce. And I've had it already, it's quite delicious. I've actually had this dish already and I liked it so much, I wanted to share it with you all. But alas, that's not the most exciting thing on today's stream. No. Because up next, on today's topic of discussions on our island holiday retreat, vacation, timeshare, something like this. Ladies and gentlemen of the Animals, I believe I have begun something. Well, I started it last night, and I think I have enough to at least get a good episode in here. I may have done something similar. May have done something similar to the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. And I don't want to spoil it, and we'll get into it after I eat. But it's something similar to that, and it's in relation to marijuana. So I hope you find what I've put together to be not only fascinating and interesting, but plausible and logical and rational. Because I am a supporter of marijuana, and I'm just I'm trying to think of all the ways that and we'll get into that later. But if this ends up being the case, then I have here, this is like the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. Like when they first created it and they did rough drafts. This would be that right here. So we'll get into that later. And then, whether you consider that the most exciting part of the stream tonight, or whether you consider our end of stream email update, electrical outlet email update, and we will be updating our progress on that story, which I know some of you have been very interested in. So, let me check on those dumplings real quick again, the ones that I'm boiling. And then we're gonna get into these, and we'll do our mukbang. And then we'll get into this wonderful thing I put together, which I'm actually quite proud of. I banged it out last night, and it's probably built off of other ideas, but I'm pretty proud of it. Okay. A couple more minutes. A few more minutes. What are you doing over there? What are you all doing? I'll be right back. All right. Did you have fun while I was gone? Hmm? 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 Anyways. Pork and vegetable, Korean style dumplings. So I've got pan fried and steamed. I just finished the steamed dumplings. They're like super slippery. It's great. Are you guys ready? Okay. Here we go. We'll start with one of the pan fried ones. It's pan fried. It's a spicy hot, like it's a spicy barbecue, but it's not like hot. It's just like just a little spicy. So nice. Oh my gosh. I'm not joking. This is like really good. I'm not even kidding. This is like really good. Yeah, I could eat a whole bag of these. Nice flavored pork. I think the vegetable, I think there's a little bit of onion in there. There's not too much, like it's not overpowering. A nice texture of the dumpling. Let's try one. This is one that was boiled. The dumpling, the outer layer of the dumpling is so soft. Soft, squishy, gooey, like, you know, like a gooey, like squishy texture. It's so nice. Oh, I'm gonna boil the rest of this 'cause it's such a nice texture. Oh my gosh. That's really, really good. No. That's really good. Like, I'm not even joking. Really good. Ooh. I'm not playing with you right now. This is so freaking delicious. You know, I know Corona. It's got Snoop Dogg and there's Andy Samberg and some sort of ocarina thing. But I don't know, man. Something about the animals. Some dumpling. And whatever this delicious thing is. No idea. No idea what it is. So good. I don't think you understand right now. Like, I don't do mukbang because I think it's cool. I do mukbang because I really like food. And I like the creative art that kind of goes with food. You know, chefs kind of have a different context to their art and food. Like, right, when they're preparing the like at restaurants, when they're preparing the plates and they set up the plate nice and artsy and stuff. So mukbang's kind of like my artsy food, kind of like eating style. And since mukbang, I believe, did it start Korea? It started in Korea, or it's a Korean thing? So these are Korean dumplings. Salute to my fellow humans who are in Korea. I guess both north and south, you know. Hopefully the war ends, right? Hopefully everybody can find peace in that part, right? Without making things weird. So shout out to Korea for some dumplings. Korean style dumplings, thank you. They're delicious. Mukbang. Oh my gosh, I'm not, okay. The boiled dumplings are the texture is so nice. I'm not joking. So this is what, if you want to see what it kind of looks inside, it's kind of what it looks inside. We got pork, looks like onion and like a green vegetable. It's a very nice complementing texture. Oh, the boiled is, from now on, I think this is the first time I'm eating the dumpling boiled. It's so nice. I had the pan fried already. The delicious, soft texture. Really, really good. So dumplings are kind of like, it's like the pasta version. You know, like ravioli, right? Like this is like the Asian equivalent, right? And Italian food has like the ravioli and the tortellini. So good. I'm not kidding. Such a nice flavor compliment. Oh man. So, well, I finished these dumplings. We got 4 left here. I think I started with, I think I had like 11 dumplings. We got 4 left. Dominating these things. So as we transition from our dumpling mukbang segment of tonight, let's slowly transition to our next segment. And tonight's main event, depending on how you look at it. Or tonight's main story is about marijuana. Now I am a supporter of marijuana, both medically and recreationally. I have been a medical marijuana participant since, I think, 2009, 2010. And then once it turned recreational legal, like all the medical people like went out of business because the state legalized it. And so I just have been like recreational since then. But I very much support both the recreational side and the medicinal side. And a lot of people think, when medical marijuana started in California in the 90s, over 20 years ago. And that can be kind of viewed like as the Declaration of Independence or something similar to it, of the marijuana community. Alcohol went through prohibition in what, the 20s, and they had to fight for their kind of freedom. But they're just recreational. Marijuana is recreational and medicinal. And that's what makes it interesting. So, I do believe marijuana has both recreational benefit and medicinal benefit. And I believe marijuana, and I know there's a lot of people who have opinions about drugs, of course, and we live in America, so of course a lot of people are going to have opinions. But I'm someone who supports kind of the more normalization of marijuana and the support of its medical and recreational aspects. And I'm going to give you the reasons why. And some people think that when marijuana was legalized, the boiled dumpling, so good. When marijuana was legalized, they thought that was it, like it won. But that was, back when Colorado legalized marijuana recreationally, the first state to do it. There's still so much work to do, and then state by state, medical, and recreational. And now, as of this stream, in the United States, medical marijuana, and I'm not sure about recreational, but at the very least, medical marijuana has been ruled as a majority support policy, as something that's been supported in policy and legislation, in affirmative in the majority. And really, the only states that really are against marijuana at this point, legally or politically, are kind of the states in the middle of the country. If you eat dumplings, boil them. I don't care. I don't care if you like them pan fried, boil them, because the texture is so slippery and like soft and squishy and delicious. It's so good. So good. Okay. So, when marijuana was federally legalized for recreation use, everybody thought, that was it. Now we have it to the point where it's majority, or at least majority medicinal, maybe majority recreational, as in over 50% of the states support it with policy and legislation. But that's not the real end game, especially because the medicinal aspect has been started since the 20s, but we haven't, there's still work to do, and here's the thing. Here's what I think is going to finally solidify marijuana as a legitimate medicinal, viewed as legitimate medicine. And I don't know if Canada does this yet. Canada legalized it federally for across the nation first. Amsterdam, of course. Never been to Amsterdam. Would love to visit. So hopefully, when I do visit Amsterdam, I hope I will get a wonderful experience. And I can't wait to try, your local cuisine and products. But the real thing that I think will solidify marijuana's legality, both politically and publicly, will be, here's the last bite. Oh, gosh. So effing good. No joke. The thing that's going to really solidify it is when insurance companies cover people's marijuana as a medically insured medicine. So, what I put together is a bit of a basic framework that can be built upon or discussed upon or talked about, but I think it's solid enough to get the support necessary to be able to get things in rolling, and maybe some of these things are already in production or already in process. Maybe I'm just thinking of things that have already been in process, maybe, and maybe I have some new ideas. Honestly, we'll find out. So what I have is a bunch of stuff that I've written down. I consider it like the Constitution or something. Insurance coverage and marijuana. There are people who definitely have a medical benefit from marijuana. I have had a medical benefit from marijuana. The medical benefits with marijuana are undeniable. It's also a recreational drug, though. And I'm going to save the part that supports everything. By the way, just so we, just so we don't jump ahead of ourselves, I'm going to say a bunch of things, and then to support all of my opinions, I'm going to give the most important key to the entire equation at the end. All right. So the most important equation, the most important key to the puzzle is going to be at the end, where it'll fit everything in. For starters, the federal government or the people need to vote, or the federal government and its representatives, or the representatives that represent the people, need to create a new class and schedule in the class of substances. Currently, I think marijuana is what? Substance 1 or 2, and it's not classified as having any medical benefit. I suggest, and I brought this up before, the first time I brought it up, I said it belongs in the class. It's in its own class called Schedule 4, because I thought there was only 2 scheduled classes. Apparently, there are like 5 scheduled classes. Right now, it's in like 1 or 2, but I suggest we create a new schedule of classes called Schedule 6, and that Schedule 6 class will represent drugs that have both recreational and medicinal benefit, with no death-related or harmful effects, with responsible or appropriate use. That's the first thing. That's something that needs to happen. You need to reclassify. Marijuana on the schedule of substances. 100%, without a doubt. And whether it's its own classification or move to a different... I personally want it to be its own classification. Schedule 6, VI. I said Schedule 4 for IV, but that was already changed. VI works too. Wouldn't it be cool to have a piece of IVI in government and marijuana history? Just saying. But so, Schedule 6. Again, Schedule 6 would be a class of substances that are for recreational and medicinal use, that have no death-related or harmful effects, with responsible and appropriate use and medical benefit. So something that has medical benefit and when used responsibly is not related to harmful effects or that's really neat about it. Then you've got the recreational world and the medicinal world, right? Okay. So if marijuana is just recreational alone, it would turn out like it would be like marijuana or alcohol. I'll be right back, by the way. So give me 1 second. Or give me a few moments. Okay. So we have recreational and medicinal. Now, unlike alcohol is just medicinal, right? And if marijuana was alcohol is just recreational. Although wine does have antioxidant benefits, so. And beer with yeast in it, you can technically live off of beer with yeast. theoretically. So technically, there are a few medical benefits in there. Technically, so shout out to the alcohol fam. But overall, alcohol is a recreational, by and large, mostly recreational. Marijuana is recreational and medicinal. So you've got to view it from both angles. If it was recreational, you could easily, market it and distribute it and make money off of it like just a normal recreational substance, easily. But it's medicinal. So there's a huge side to it that you need to respect and understand, even for those of you that are just medicinal users. And that's why this insurance thing is important. Because getting deals with insurance companies to support people's medical use of marijuana is that's like the holy grail at that point. Because then you've got protection from the pharmaceutical companies or insurance companies. You've got protection from the government. You've got, the ability to protect people from being harassed for using marijuana, because honestly, people that have harassed people for using marijuana, not everybody, of course, but there are, the people who oppose or are against drug policy or legislation that's in the more open-minded category, or the more, responsible category, I should say. So, how can you have insurance cover marijuana? Are you going to cover, the amount? Are you going to cover a certain amount? Do you is it a dosage? Because if it's medical, then it's like a prescription, right? So then marijuana becomes something like a prescription, but it's not quite a prescription. And normally prescriptions are covered. You get your prescriptions. It's a certain day amount, and you get the covered with the insurance. And there's a certain dosage, but marijuana is not quite the same. Most marijuana is either edible, a drink nowadays, which is, I guess, a version of edible, the flower, or the vaporization. Those are the three main methods. They have mints and stuff like that too, but I think the three main methods are vaporization, flower, and edible stuff, including drinks. So, the dosage stuff can vary, and usage can vary between users. So that's one of the biggest concerns, is that the usage and the dosage amount for what people need based on their marijuana needs, medically speaking, not recreationally speaking, medically speaking. I meant this whole segment right now is context of medical context. So my opinion is, instead of saying that the insurance, and we're just thinking hypothetically, we're looking ahead to the future. Insurance companies are looking to cover people's marijuana purchases, right? So how are they going to do it? Are they going to just cover each individual purchase, or a certain, in my opinion, the best option would be to do monthly allotment amounts. And this is good for a couple of reasons. The first is that it protects medical users' privacy. Because what I've noticed in the past couple of years, especially on the lower income scale, people can take advantage of your privacy if you don't have the correct support system in place, or you don't have people looking out, or and people can learn about your medical history even when they're not supposed to. So what a monthly allotment would do would at least protect people, instead of it being the insurance would cover each purchase. For example, I'm gonna use the example of marijuana vape cartridges, which are coming a half gram or a full gram amount. Some people might say, well, insurance companies should cover each, cartridge, and then you're going to play because sometimes a cartridge, depending on your usage and your tolerance level, can last 1 to 4 weeks, or for some people, 1 to 2. It depends. So each person's tolerance and usage level is different. But if you place a monthly allotment on, you can cover the person's purchases without affecting, or manipulating or interfering with their fluctuating tolerance usage, and also keeping their privacy, so people can't be every time there's a charge, it's every time the insurance company charges, it's a gram. Instead, it just covers an allotted amount, and you don't know what it could be, an edible, it could be a cartridge, so that would be the one. And then secondly, it doesn't put pressure on the individual based on usage or tolerance. Because if somebody had, the thing with marijuana is people, and depending on what you're using, it's an edible or vaporization or flower, you're going to have different uses and tolerances. And medical marijuana users often are more regular users. People who are light users or just recreational users, not often, it's going to have a more impactful effect, and they might not need as much marijuana compared to a medical user. A medical user will probably need, a little bit more marijuana. So their usage and their tolerance level is going to differ. So having a monthly allotment instead of just covering each kind of like thing like a prescription, right? I think would do two things. It would protect the medical patient's privacy, and it would take pressure off of the usage and tolerance aspect of marijuana, because there's no, because there's so many different strains, the consistency as well. Until they get to a point where they can make a consistent strain, always the same strain, always the effectiveness, like pharmaceuticals. So, here's the next thing. So, prescription medication, and here's something important to know. A lot of you played word games and mind games and psychological games with words and this, that, or the other. And if you think about it, pharmaceutical medication have weird names. And they have weird names for a reason. They have weird names usually so it doesn't contribute to all these weird, word games that people play psychologically that can induce chemical reactions in the brain, right? So, what my suggestion is, this is how you can both protect the word game system and you can protect the medical and recreational user. So you have a cartridge, and again, I'm going to use a vaporization, or you can even look at it from the point of view of a flower, having the flower, the bud, the marijuana bud or flower. I suggest you have the same product, like a marijuana vaporization cartridge, and like a gram oil cartridge or an eighth of marijuana flower. You have the same product, but you name it two different things. You have its recreational name, which is the typical marijuana, like OG or Skywalker or et cetera, et cetera. And then you have the medicinal name for people who are medicinal users. And that's like a prescription name. So that way, when people buy it and they're a recreational user, they're buying the recreational version, the name association, right? That way, everybody's still getting the medical grade product, and marijuana users aren't, medical marijuana users aren't being left out, and recreational users aren't being left out. And again, I'm going to explain the reasons why that's okay. Some people might say, well, why does the recreational users get medical grade? And at the end, I'm going to explain why, and it's going to be a huge key, and it's going to explain everything. So, you have a strain of marijuana, a flower or a vaporization cart, same cartridge, same flower, but named two different things. One for the recreational community, one for the medical community. The medical community has the more prescription name, and the recreational community has the more, marijuana sounding name. The traditional strain names, or, whatever it is. So that way, if people start bullying people with marijuana, by the way, and they're medical users, like, oh, you need marijuana? Oh, it's not real medicine. When people try to bully people because of medicine, right? If they're a medical user and they start bullying them based on, the prescription name, there's things that people can do to legally protect themselves, right? So, if you have the recreational people and even if they call it the recreational name, then the medical people are like, look, man, this is my this is my medicine. I have the medicinal version of it, and, with all due respect, I don't appreciate, and that's where dialogue and discussion come into play. But, it's a way to protect people's privacy, and it's a way to protect, because that's why prescriptions, like pill prescription stuff, have weird names, right? They have weird names because it doesn't play into that whole word game, or it's not supposed to, I guess, right? Like, they've always had weird names. So, I think that would solve a huge aspect. So you have the same product, and I'm also a big proponent of making sure that recreational and medicinal users both have the same product. I'm strong about that point, because I want the same product to be out there. I want people to have a quality product, regardless of what it is. And again, I know some people are like, it's a drug. How could you suggest this? I will tie it all in at the end of this, and you'll understand why. So let's say that works. Okay, so which dispensaries get the priority seating? Which, when insurance companies are like, okay, I got to trust dispensaries, or I got to trust the companies that process the strains. And, once that all becomes official, I'm sure that'll be a more streamlined process. But when the initial insurance company, contract, who's going to get first dibs, right? Who's going to get first dibs to sign those very lucrative medical insurance company contracts? Dispensaries that are protecting medical patients and are making sure that both recreational and medicinal people are getting the proper product. I think that's who should get the first contracts. The dispensaries that are they're legitimate, good history, and they protect their medical users, and they don't treat their recreational and medicinal users poorly. Good history, good customers, all that. Those are the dispensaries. So that's the motive for people right now, dispensaries right now, to be in compliance or to do good in regards for both their community and the legal system, to protect their medical patients, to make sure that the recreational community isn't taken advantage of just because they're the recreational community, and that they're in as best compliance as possible in a gray area industry. And those are the dispensaries that I think should get the first dibs, at those major insurance company contracts. And those are huge investments and great ways to grow your brand and product and create solidified proper business. So what brings it all together? What allows this? And there's a lot of topics we can go on this, but this is what's filling into my time slot for the time being. My main point, my major basis for this argument, and this is what I think is the nail in the coffin. Just like for anybody who says anything bad, this is my nail in the coffin. The major basis for my argument is the fact that wrongful death isn't associated with the medicinal or recreational use of marijuana, therefore making it an insurable drug and one of, if not the safest drugs on the market. For all the insurance companies out there, look at me right now. Tell me, I'd love to, there's no wrongful death cases. There are zero. Marijuana, you don't overdose on it. You can't kill yourself. The worst thing that happens, you get sleep. You get nauseous or a little dizzy. You're sleeping tired. You take a nap. You're fine. And for older people who are experiencing the medical marijuana for the first time, the worst thing that they get is a hospital visit because they took too much edible. For people who are new to the drug, take very little amount. For people who are new to marijuana, if you're new to marijuana, just start with a little and then work your way up. Trust me. Just start with a very little, unless you just want to go full out crazy. But I'm okay with that because of this very reason. No wrongful death, no overdose, no death associated to marijuana. The actual use of the drug. If people want to say, oh, drug trade causes death, or difference of opinion that causes people to fight causes death, okay, that's fine. That's political differences that occur. Marijuana is the only drug. It's the safest drug in the world. It's an insurance company's dream. It is the only drug that does not have wrongful death. You cannot attach wrongful death associated to it because you cannot kill people with it. You can't, not with the drug itself. If people make poor decisions or are irresponsible with the drug, that's something, that's what lawyers and insurance companies fight about these things all the time with car accidents. They look for all that, and you can guarantee responsibility and choices all make an important difference in these scenarios. And wrongful death, for all you insurance companies, if you're calculating the insurance and the insurability of marijuana and you're calculating wrongful death into it, remove wrongful death and tell me that it's not a profitable insurance investment. Tell me it's not. It's impossible. There's no drug that's safer than marijuana. And if you're insuring pharmacies and medical, if insurance is protecting medical communities from pharmaceutical drugs that actually do kill people, tell me a pharmaceutical drug that hasn't killed a person. Tell me one pharmaceutical drug that hasn't killed one person. And this is why I call it the nail in the coffin. Because if marijuana is a drug that can help people medically, and it has recreational benefit for people to enjoy as well. And that's why I say, it's okay to test things. Because it doesn't have the potential to kill people. You can experiment with marijuana, and this is why the usage and the tolerance are big. You can experiment, and you can test out what the effective levels are for both your recreational experience and your medicinal experience, and it won't kill you. The worst things you'll get are like maybe a little paranoia, like nausea. You need to sleep it off. That's it. Even old people who take too much marijuana for the first time, they end up in the hospital room and they just sleep it off, and then they're fine. It happens. It does. It happens. And my suggestion is anybody who's new to marijuana or the marijuana community, both recreational and medicinal, if you're new, start with little. Start with a little, I guarantee you. And if it's an edible, start with a little and wait a longer period of time because edibles take an hour to 2 hours sometimes to kick in. So my major basis for why insurance companies can cover medical marijuana as a medical, because it's impossible to say that marijuana doesn't have medical benefits. It's impossible. I don't care who you are. I don't care what medical professor, insurance, scientific. Marijuana has medicinal properties. Our brain has THC receptors that are in our. Even if you don't use marijuana, you have THC receptors in your body. It's there. Marijuana has been around as long as anything else in society. And it has medicinal benefit. It does. I'm sorry, but it does. And it has zero wrongful death insurance, like zero wrongful death associated to it. There's not a drug on the market that has zero wrongful death associated to it. If you're going to tell me that a drug which has zero wrongful death associated to it isn't an insurable drug, then you're playing some kind of weird game. So I think what I've put together here, which is on the foundation and basis, the key to the whole thing is the fact that it's not a wrongful death. You don't die on it. Marijuana doesn't kill you. So you take in wrongful death, you take that out of the insurance equation, you've got the greatest, safest drug, most profitable drug on the medical market. My idea for a society, by the way, because I'm supportive of recreational drugs, I'm supportive of medicinal drugs, I'm supportive of science and medicine, and this is how I want you all to think of it. Because some of you are like, oh gosh, recreational drugs, what kind of drug? Cocaine and crack and heroin? No. If you want to know a specific list of drugs, I approve of psychedelics. I have used marijuana, alcohol. I've smoked a couple cigarettes during my party days in college, here or there. Not really a tobacco. I'm not a tobacco person. I'm not interested in tobacco or nicotine. That's not my thing. I've done MDMA, which is like it's ecstasy. Excuse me. And I've done acid. I don't think I've had a full proper acid trip, but I've done acid, and I liked it. So I kind of support psychedelic kind of like drugs, because honestly, psychedelic drugs, you can't really overdose on them, and it's more about your psychological strength and your knowledge and your education level and your responsibility level, and it's kind of like a testament to being an adult. So, for people who don't like those kind of things, you don't have to use them. But, there are some states that are actually, and again, to support my legal, political perspective, there are states that support the legal use of psychedelic substances. So it's already started. It's not something that I'm just trying to create. This has already begun. So the policy and the legislation has already begun. And so, we're living in a new age. And the reality is, a lot of people used to do things, participate in substances and drugs, and it used to be fine. And it was just when people became irresponsible with it, that's when the policy and legislation started to change. But I think, and again, so this is to give you an idea of what I'm being pro-drug and pro-psychedelics, this is the idea of kind of like, I would like to create a society similar to something like a drugstore or a grocery store that has the pharmaceutical section or like, the high valuable product section. Some drugstores and some grocery stores have to lock all of their over-the-counter medications, or like, certain sections of the store, they have to lock it up behind key. You go to a certain drugstore and they have to put things in locked counter, or locked, what do you call them? The locked kind of cage things. But there are grocery store and drugstores that don't have any of that, and they have all their products out and available. It just kind of depends where you're at, right? Where there's more, theft, or there's more. So my idea of a society, even though I'm pro-drug, even, psychedelic drug, and I know, again, some of these things are like on the controlled substances list in a negative way, and in my opinion, they need to be reclassified. There needs to be a new classification. There needs to be. Marijuana needs to be the first one. It needs to be Schedule 6 of substances, and marijuana needs to be the first one, and you either need to create a Schedule 7 or you need to start reclassifying other psychedelics because society doesn't need to make each other crazy like this. So my idea is to have a society that has the grocery store, the drugstore, with all the, all the medication, all the things, and nobody causes problems. You don't have to lock it up. You don't have to make sure people are stealing it. When people need something, they go to the store and buy it. That's my idea of a society. I don't want to live in a society that's like, people are stealing things and drugs are so, so prolific that we got to, even over the counter the medication, we got to lock up because people steal. No. My opinion on drugs and recreational drug use is such that it should be, it should be like, when you go to a grocery store or a convenience store, you got all kinds of products and you pick and choose your product. Why can't drugs be like that? Why can't you be responsible like that? And so my mindset is, if you can, people and individuals can be responsible like that. There are many individuals who are against drugs, who instigate, I know, and I've experienced this myself. There are many people who instigate problems just because of drugs. I get it. But I think there are good drugs and I think there are bad drugs. And I think the scientific community and just the American citizens have enough knowledge and education to classify the good drugs and the bad drugs. And, I'm not viewing this from a religious, biblical perspective either. I'm a science and arts major. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I take these things seriously. And I take this topic seriously. And this isn't a joke to me. This is a very, very real document that I put together. And this is like, if this is the basis and the foundation for the future of marijuana medicinally in regards to insurance and coverage, then this is like a foundational document. And there's, and I would love it if people who view this episode of The Animus, which I think, by the way, I know I refer to these as my Assassin's Creed playthroughs, but I think I might update my name to The Animus and then just refer to the game that we're playing at the time. At least in regards to the Assassin's Creed stuff. So, this is all very serious to me, and I take it seriously, and I don't know, I think I've got good ideas that help support the medical marijuana community in the weird gray area medical world that it lives in, because it is a drug that's different. It is a drug that's unique, and it is a drug that's safer than all the other drugs, and it has medical benefit, and it has recreational benefit. And you're like, well, what's recreational benefit? Well, parties. I know the reference to some drugs are party drugs, but the reality is, yeah, there are things that help make the party experience better. You know what? When done responsibly, and when you're educated about what you're using, and you're you can when people buy drugs and they're off, they're not on the legal market, you can still buy drug test kits and test what you're getting. So if you really, if you want to go to the full extent, for people who buy drugs that are recreational psychedelics, buy a drug kit. Buy a drug test kit and then test the things that you buy just to make sure that you're taking things that are okay. If you don't trust, or if it's like a new plug or something, a new hookup or something like that, don't be afraid to test things. So this is kind of like my big thing for today, is that I really think that the insurance companies can really, using this as a foundation, again, monthly allotments, protecting the privacy and the usage and tolerance levels, and using a cart, same product, just two different names, one for the recreational community, one for the medical community, and then that covers the legal angles in regards to people harassing people for the medicinal benefit, and it protects them. It really protects them from intimidation, from harassment. Dispensaries acting in, and this is the thing, this is the difficult part for the dispensaries, acting in accordance both with compliance, but also both within the protection of their medical users, and in the benefit, and not not screwing over recreational users. And the people who the dispensaries that work together, they'll probably get the first offers from the insurance companies to sign contracts, to be able to support insurance coverage for marijuana. So say like in the monthly allotment meaning you go to a doctor, let's say, and this is another thing, by the way, and I mentioned this before, when I had my medical marijuana, I couldn't get it renewed because when in California the legalization occurred, all of the medical marijuana doctors went out of business because nobody wanted to go to them anymore. And then it became a state thing. I think the medical marijuana became a state, like you would have to get it through the state at that point. So I just never got a new medical marijuana license myself, but it's still a big important thing for me. So I don't see why insurance companies can't cover it, due to the fact that there's no wrongful death, which is a huge insurance liability, by the way. Wrongful death, it's a huge. If you take that number out of it, it's how could it not be in the positive investment insurable, all their algorithms. And it really all boils down to the fact that wrongful death, I think that's the key to the whole thing. And that's just one thing. There are other things there are other things other than just wrongful death that you can probably remove from the negative insurance category, that help improve the insurance coverage or the ability to insure people with marijuana. So you go to a doctor, you explain to the doctor what the reasons why you want marijuana, and then the doctor will cover you. And then maybe the doctor writes I'm sure these are all the fine details to figure out, but they figure out a thing and they send it into a place that then determines, or somebody figures out to determine the monthly allotment amount, because different people might need different amounts. And if somebody needs, and if their usage, they need more marijuana, go to the doctor, and then make sure you're doing things like exercising, good diet, because sometimes those things can affect usage and tolerance, and explain those things to your doctor. And then sometimes, the doctor can then like getting a prescription or changing the dosage based on how it affects you, and having a certain criteria that it follows by. And those could all be things that sets the monthly allotment. And you go to the dispensary, you purchase whatever product you want, and it's covered within the monthly allotment. And if like a not a copay, but like a deductible amount, you cover the deductible, and if you go over the deductible, it's all out of pocket from that point. But the monthly allotment amount should cover at least the medicinal the medicinal length of time that you need, right, per month. And why I say monthly allotment, because usage and tolerance being different for each individual might need to purchase different things or try different things. So a monthly allotment allows the medical patient to have more choice when being able to deal with their medical condition and solving it with this type of medicine. So that's my big thing for tonight. And now we can move on to our second big thing of the night, which is our electricity outlet email extravaganza. And if you're not caught up, while I was homeless, there was a situation where I was homeless and in my hometown, and it was COVID. COVID had began, and it shut down everything. And there were electrical outlets and kind of publicly available electrical outlets that were then closed off and shut off from the public. Specifically me, because I was one of the few people using it. And it's my journey as a civil, going through civil rights, all these civil rights things, and I'm sure marijuana, and I reached out to my city hall, and I have an email exchange with them, and which I think kind of explains basically the the oppression and tyranny that can sometimes, even on such little, it's obviously not as bad as other people or as bad as other situations, but it still represents something that shouldn't have happened. You should never cut off a public utility to citizens in your hometown, because I was in the town that I grew up in during an emergency. I mean, it's a no-brainer from a government standpoint. Why would you do that? If the library was open, I can understand their argument, but the library was closed. So one of the few resources to charge my things was either going to private places and plugging in there and hoping that they didn't want to screw me over, or plugging into a public place. And the library closed, so naturally these outlets outside, so they're outside outlets. And in most libraries and places in public, outlets are locked up, right? But this place isn't really, homeless. Not a lot, very very little homeless people. It's like one of the few homeless people in my town. But it was in LA, so LA has the largest homeless population. LA has one of the largest homeless scenarios, and I was a homeless person in my hometown, and we didn't really have a large homeless population. So they didn't really need to lock those things up, but they did during this time. So I emailed them trying to get it unlocked and restored, And this is my email exchange. So I'm going to start from the beginning of the email, as I'm going to do for each stream, and kind of update you where we're at. So let me begin from the beginning again. Just so those of you who weren't here can kind of like, stay connected. And the names, I'm going to kind of like just, I'm going to say insert name for the names of the people involved. They are public officials, so I could use their name, but I'm just going to I'm going to refer to them as their positions, or, I'm just going to say insert name in regards to the names, just because that's what I'm choosing to do. So to mayor, insert name. My name is, referring to myself, I'm currently homeless and live with a disability. In order to keep myself safe, informed, and entertained, I have been using the electrical outlets located outside of the library not long after the coronavirus outbreak began and the library closed. I have not disrupted or interfered with anyone or anything while I've been there. I haven't had any issues with having access to the electrical outlets until the past week, and I'm unsure as to why there's been any electrical access issues in the first place, considering the city, state, and country have all been in a state of emergency due to the coronavirus outbreak. I'm also shocked that there have been issues to accessing electrical outlets, as I'm someone who has a disability and is currently homeless during a period of emergency, and doing so would create a safety issue for myself. Safety issue being not being able to stay connected via information, and just not being able to stay connected in general, for my own sanity. Mental health. Since public safety is one of your top concerns and priorities, I'm requesting that access be restored to electrical outlets as soon as possible so I may continue to stay safe and informed in a safe place. Please respond to this email confirming my request. Mayor response says, referring to myself, thank you for contacting me. I am including our Council of Governments Homeless Coordinator, insert name, and our city staff, insert name, on this reply. Public safety is our number one concern, both your safety and the safety of others. Gabriel, insert name and insert name should be able to help assist with your electrical needs and housing should you so desire. I will keep them updated. Again, thank you for your email. And I respond, Dear Mayor, both insert name and insert name are individuals I've met already. Insert name has shown to be an adversary instead of an ally and even taunted me about my electricity issue the past week. Gabriel has shown erratic, I said the name again. Insert name has shown erratic behavior in his quest to help me and is not someone who I would consider helpful anymore. Unless these individuals are able to provide me with a hotel room, then there is nothing that they can do except to return the electrical outlet access to its previous usable state. And I refer to both of them because it was pretty obvious that both these individuals had an idea of what was going on. And they made these like under the tongue insinuations and like under the like saying things like related to it but not like officially recognized it. So both of these individuals that were mentioned in this email, they definitely were both involved, in addition to the local authorities, I believe. I've been sheltering at the park that I was at for the past 6 to 7 months in a tent and make a 2-mile walk in order to use electricity, Wi-Fi, and safe space at the library. And the 2-mile walk is there and back. It's about a mile there and a mile back. Insert name is responsible for allowing me to receive 4 citations at the park, despite me sharing with him the ruling of Martin versus Boise. The 4th citation resulted in a violation of my civil rights. This town is where I grew up. It is where I went to elementary, middle, and high school. I do not plan on leaving unless I receive a housing voucher or hotel voucher, and I will not put myself in a situation that increases the odds of giving me coronavirus, i.e. a shelter. It is starting to become more and more likely that I am being picked on and bullied either by someone at City Hall or by City Hall in general, with the electrical outlet access being one of the major pieces of evidence. I would really hate to have to report this incident to the ADA and all major news outlets in order to get the public support I need to protect myself from being discriminated for being homeless and having a disability. Again, I'm not sure what reasons you may have for trying to take away such a vital public utility, since I was never bothering anyone unless it's only about ego. I do hope the right thing is done, however, by allowing my access to the electrical outlet to continue. Please think about what exactly is being done here, to whom it is being done to. Thank you. I hear nothing. My next email. Dear Mayor, Mr. New, it's been 3 days since my reply to you, and I haven't received any information about my electrical needs. My phone and computer are a lifeline, and not having the ability to charge them and use the Wi-Fi is something that not only creates anxiety for me, but provides an unsafe situation. This is an urgent matter that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. I've just spent half of my stimulus check money putting myself in a hotel room in order to keep myself safe because there are few feasible options to finding electricity until the library opens back up. I really have no idea why there was a proverbial roadblock placed in front of me with the electricity situation, as I wasn't causing any problems, creating any safety issues, or doing anything wrong. I am dealing with this coronavirus situation from a truly difficult place, and for my situation to be made even more difficult is extremely hurtful. Everyone at City Hall has a job with income and a place to live, so why there are those within your walls that want to make my situation even more difficult than it already is makes me so sad and depressed. I'm begging that you're able to do what is right in this situation because it really is creating a leveling of anxiety and concerns of safety that make me feel really uncomfortable. Again, this matter is urgent and I need to get it addressed immediately. Thank you. I heard nothing at that point. So I sent another email. I sent another email 3 days later. Another 3 days pass. I'm not going to go through all the, there's going to be more information, but I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm going to give you a little more. Hello, Mayor. I still have not received any information from anyone regarding this matter. The situation is very important to me. I hope it's being taken seriously. Additionally, as the mayor, do you not have the authority to make the electrical outlet accessible? Who has been making the decisions to inconvenience me and my situation more difficult? To inconvenience me and make my situation more difficult in regards to electrical outlet access. Communication seems to be an issue here since it's been a week since I initiated this conversation and still haven't received any information regarding a solution. Thank you. The same day, she responds to me, referring to me. Insert name will be in touch with you regarding your situation. Be well. I then respond. Dear Mayor, I was told this a week ago. When exactly does this person plan on getting in touch with me? And the following day, I finally get the email from what at the time they were just the city staff. One of the people, I'm not going to refer to their name just for the time being, but it was someone in the city staff who was the person responsible for making initial contact with me as a homeless person, and was this person probably, if not, having an input on the electrical situation and stuff. And I'm going to save that email for next stream. And these are the last two emails, and we'll go over them next stream. So next stream, we will finally complete this email journey. But I hope you kind of have an idea that I tried. I was trying to reach out to my own government, my own local government, to resolve a situation, and they just don't, they were just basically brushing me off. So, anyways, what a night. Delicious mukbang. Wonderful conversation, and possibly the foundation, imagine being a part of the group of people who started the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. Hello. This could be that for the insurance and medical marijuana. This could be the Declaration of Independence or Constitution of that. This could be that. And this could be that stream that created it. Some of these ideas might have already been thought up, and I might have just been putting a bunch of ideas together, but here we are, and here I am. So, what a stream. Thank you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for stopping by my really cool stream. Thank you so much for caring about, what's going on. Being a fan of mine and caring about the issues that are going on in my life, because these are real issues, So I thank you. I thank you for choosing me out of all the places on the internet to hang out with, and spending your time and being a part of my little journey and experience. I thank you, and we will be back Friday for the final portion of this email exchange extravaganza. And you know, we'll see what kind of traction we can get with this marijuana thing. Maybe it'll really pick up, or maybe it's just, you know, something that'll be there to prove that I was thinking up of the good ideas when they were happening. But either way, this paper here could be like foundational. Could be. Anyways, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And until we meet again, have a good one, everyone. Thanks so much. And, take care. Have a good one. All right. Bye. Bye-bye. Sayonara. Get out of here and enjoy this delicious, tasty tuna. All right, everyone. See you next time.